Welcome to the First Dollar, where we interview fascinating founders about the first sales their startup ever made. Today, I'm joined by Ajinkya Nene, founder of Trellus, a parallel and power dialer that works inside of Sales Loft, Outreach, HubSpot, Apollo, all my favorite tech stack there in the sales world. Welcome to the show, Ajinkya.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be
Yeah.
here.
Interesting parallels to what you're doing and how I started my career. I actually started at a company called InsideSales.com, one of the very first power dialers inside of Salesforce. And I've seen so many different dialer tools come up in the world. Recently, a swath of AI powered parallel dialers and power dialers. So, talk to us about what makes Trellis special. Why'd you
Yeah.
start it? What's it doing for the market?
So the big insight we had is a lot of companies, when they're adopting new sales tools, they will see a lot of stuff turn into shelfware, right? Because reps, they like working where they work. So primarily that's usually you're on LinkedIn, you're on your email, and then maybe on your sales engagement platform. So like you're in a CRM or you're in Sales Loft. That's really where you live and work. And as soon as you introduce a new tool, a rep goes in there maybe once a week and then they never go in it again. So our big take from that was, hey, there's a lot of cool new tools coming out on market, but they're all these independent platforms where you have to go to the separate platform to go do your work and it just doesn't make sense. So let's bring all of that where you already love to work. So on LinkedIn, let's help you there. On SalesLoft, on Outreach, on HubSpot, let's make these tools that you love, like parallel dialing, power dialing, automatic research, email writing, like just stuff it inside the platform. You don't need to leave. It'll all work for you there automatically. And that was the ethos of the company. And yeah, that's the big insight. It's let's bring all the tools that are coming hot on market, put them where you already work so it works seamlessly, and then have at it. Just go and sell.
Interesting. So, do you guys go further than dialing? Do you handle other channels, things like email writing, LinkedIn?
Yeah. The whole idea behind what we're eventually envisioning, and we do a couple of these right now, is basically imagine all the AI capabilities that are coming online into the markets, researching your prospect beforehand, writing the emails for you, generating that LinkedIn opener that you should go send. Think about like, you know, cold call training, like what should you say in real time, post work that you should do, what calls should you go in place. The idea with Trellis is we'll just do all of that work. Right now, we're primarily focused, of course, around cold calls, and then we're now expanding into emails this week. And the idea is all in one, these sales AI automation tools, like a true sales AI copilot, but inside your SCP, don't leave, don't go anywhere else.
Interesting. And how do you guys think about? I promise we'll get into the
Yep.
purpose of the show here, but I'm such a sales nerd
Yeah.
that, like, talk to me about how you guys think about tools like Outreach building these natively. So they're
Sure.
starting to build some of these AI powered things. Are you just building them faster and better because you're not also an SEP that's trying to, build the rest of the structure?
100%. So I think one of the things is like we have two things going for us. One, outreach is of course building it natively, but with their AI features, they're limited sometimes in context, right? So they are pulling just from the activity history on the profile, but they're not generally going and researching that company's website. They're generally not
Mm,
pulling on these data providers. We have our own like research stack. We like accumulate all of that, right? If anyone has used ChatGPT, it's as good as like the thing that you sent it, like the prompt and the context. And so
yep.
if the only context you had is I gave them one call and they didn't pick up on me, what are you going to generate an email out of that?
Yep.
And so that's number one. I think number two is it's the classic startup versus incumbent story, which is our laser focus is on building these AI tools. So we will try to be number one there. And that's like how we're planning to win.
Amazing. Love it. Love the angle. All right. Now let's go back to 2022.
Yep.
Okay. You're in a Y Combinator. You've got this idea for a product. You're getting ready to launch. Walk us through that process of earning the first customer. Where'd you start? How'd you find them? What did that look
Yep, for sure. So me and my co-founder, we don't come from a sales background. So we're both engineers. I was an engineer turned consultant. He had been an engineer all his career. And so we didn't know anything about sales. Just to give you the quick anecdote, the first time we were doing a discovery call with a sales leader we met, he's like, the dumbest thing you can do on a sales call is to not set a follow-up. 13 calls like before him, we had not set any follow-ups. We had just
Yeah.
assumed they would meet with us again. So we were total novices. We were just didn't know what was going on. So part of it was we honestly started off by just giving free tools. So we needed to earn first the right to talk to you and then the earn the
Yeah.
right to ask you for money. So earning the right to talk to you was, hey, a lot of people are placing cold calls. There's not a lot of real-time transcription tools there. Let's just go build one real quickly. It's pretty straightforward. So we went and did that and we just deployed it. We just and it got us into a lot of conversations, right? Because they're like, hey, what is this tool? And so then we use that to then basically structure, hey, we're building this like real-time coaching product. So that was the initial product we launched. And that eventually turned into our first sale. But the entire premise was we didn't know anyone in the market, and so let's give away for free as much as we can, and that will be, in a sense, our customer acquisition cost is like just giving out free product. And that's been like the flywheel we've ever grown, like we've grown ever since on. But the thing for us specifically, and maybe other founders can take away, is if you don't know the field that well and you don't have a lot of connections, there's only a length that conversations can take you. You do have to provide value before you can expect anything to happen for you in return. So our thing
Mm.
was, here's a bunch of product, and then we'll learn from that effectively.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sure a lot of us are going to experience that as founders going out there and saying, hey, this is new to me. I have a concept, but I'm not an expert in this field. So I
Yeah.
love that idea. Give away as much as you can. I imagine you asked for a bunch of feedback on the product early on
Mhm.
as you were not the primary user of that
Yep.
product.
Yep. We just didn't know what was going on. We would just ask to sit on Zoom calls, and they were like, "Hey, can you use it? We're just gonna mute ourselves and just watch you."
Nice.
That's like the biggest thing, like the ride-alongs that you can do. Sit on Zoom, or if you better yet, go in person with them and just sit next to them and just watch what's going on, and then you will learn.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how did you turn that into a first sale? Because you mentioned that some of those free users, like,
Yeah.
hey, we gave away some product and eventually, can you
Yep.
remember actually, no, you don't have to name them, but can you
Yep.
remember the company that actually converted and said,
A
yes, we're willing to
100%.
give you money? Okay,
Yeah,
talk me
yeah.
through that.
So I think so there's a couple of things you have to do. One is you do have to make yourself seem a little more legitimate than you are at that stage.
Sell the vision. Yeah,
You have to, right? No one wants to give money to a company that's just two dudes who have like built this hacky product real quickly. And so part of it was when you get on the call, you're selling what you're gonna do. And you, of course, eventually you have to back it up eventually and make sure you get all the customer support that they can. But the way the sell ended up happening is we were just DMing everyone we could on LinkedIn. Someone took the like bait, talked to us. Eventually we felt comfortable at this point. We're like, let's see if we can actually monetize this product. So we
sure.
didn't even talk about the free option. We just didn't bring it up. We're just like, hey, it's this much money. So we just wanted to see what would happen at that point. This is after a couple of feedback calls
Yeah,
with other people. And they basically were like, yeah, we'll talk about it. We're interested in this price. And then the things you can do as founders that big company cannot do is you can give like 1,000% of your attention to just them because they're your only customer.
yeah.
And so we just would message them all the time, build every custom thing that they were wanting in their evaluation of the tool. We would just like if they would ask a feature, it would be live the next morning. Like those were the things we would go ahead and do. And that's just how you close the first person. Like you have to do things where you're probably actually going to be negative on the customer in terms of
Sure.
just the margin you're making and in terms of like time spent and effort spent.
Totally.
But it's part of the thing that you can do that a Salesforce would never do, right? If someone came with asking for 5 licenses, but asking for custom features, they would show you the door immediately.
Yeah.
Like for us, no, tell us like all the 30 things you want, we'll go build it. And that was just the reality of what happened. I think you spray a wide enough net, you message enough people, one point you feel confident enough, you start quoting prices, someone hopefully takes the bait, and then you just go
So
10,000% customer support.
this is so fascinating because I had imagined that you'd say, yeah, we had somebody who was a free trial user and they were like, yeah, hey, we'd be happy to start paying for this. But you're saying we were talking to so many people that we just started quoting prices. You just felt like you had the confidence in your product to say, this now costs money. No one needs to know that it didn't cost money for a while. You literally just flip that switch into your talk
Yeah.
track.
So the reality is, and this is a hard lesson I've learned, as soon as you give something to someone for free, it is probably one of the most painful tasks in the world to get them to pay money. Unless you
Yeah.
are truly willing to like take the product away, in which case like that just leaves a lot of bad blood and it's
Yeah.
never a good look for the company. It's pulling teeth. Like, it's just impossible to convert someone from that. The only way we've actually found success converting free is literally offering an alternatively new product that is
Yep.
not available on the free. But like doing upgrades on the free, we've just never found a lot of success with it personally on the
Yeah.
regular trials version. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So what was one of those features that you guys launched that was like, hey, this is now a thing that you can buy.
yeah,
We'll keep you grandfathered into
yeah.
free for this version. What did that look like?
It was honestly just like having access to their reps like analytics and the ability to like input their own coaching suggestions for the reps instead of having
Nice.
reps do it themselves. That was literally the only difference. Like you could totally use the free and just have your rep share their screen or take a screenshot of their analytics or their coaching and you would effectively be on the team plan, but that was
Mm,
strictly the only difference. And I think admins are willing to pay for that like difference, but like that was the only switch.
great. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Now, going back, let's
Yep.
say you know what you know now, 2024, going
Yep.
back to 2022,
Yep.
you're having those first conversations. Is there anything you change? Is there a piece of advice you might give yourself back then that would help you?
Yeah. You will underestimate the number of people you need to talk to make something work, basically.
Oh,
I think that's just like a life lesson, which is I was just like young and naive. So I thought, hey, I'll have 10 conversations in this space, I'll figure it out, and then I'll make a big product. But like
yeah.
the reality is, unless you're a veteran in that space, you probably need to talk to 1,000 people is the real answer before you have
Yeah.
even a sense of what you can build. And so that was my number one lesson. And like that changes a lot of what you do, right? If you need to talk to 1,000 people, you should be reaching out to 20,000 people just because of like conversion rates to getting someone to a conversation.
Yeah.
But initially, I was like not even maxing out my LinkedIn outreach or like anything like that. So that's, I think, a very tactical lesson I would give to every founder I meet is if you think you need to talk to 10 people next week, go try to talk to 100. And that should probably change your entire vision of how you approach the product. I think that's like number one. Number two is previous stints at that point where I had done consulting for a couple years and then I was in college before that. And so everything was just like these short, rapid stints, never
Yep.
like looking at things on a 10-year scale. And it was hard for my brain to wrap around, hey, what does it look like if you consistently improve a product 1, 2% every day for a year, for 2 years, right?
Mm.
I was always looking at it, hey, like next week, what is the delta? And you need to have that like energy, but you're not going to be able to be in it for the long haul if you don't look at those like longer term horizons, which it takes a lot of pain and humbling to get to. But I think that's the second lesson I would learn.
Ooh, it's such a
Yep.
delicate balance too between like constant progress
y-
and constant progress over a long enough time
Yep.
horizon, right? Because you do have to think about where are we heading and how does what we're doing today get us there, but also how do we get done what we need to get done today?
Yep.
It's such a balance. I love
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Okay, now let's go back maybe a couple decades,
Mhm.
right? Let's go back, younger you, very young
Yep.
you. I imagine there was a moment at which you tried to sell something, tried to build something, tried to offer some sort of service. What was your first entrepreneurial venture?
Yeah. Okay, so it's gonna be pretty dumb, but I was probably early high school. I just wanted to see if I could make money on the internet. And
Yeah.
so I just started posting on subreddits that I can teach them like their SATs or whatever. And I was like, I'll be an SAT tutor. So I just didn't know where to go. I didn't want to do it locally. I wanted to see what you could do randomly. So I created a fake Reddit account. I posted like my scores and then I just like started to see what I could charge. I started like quoting random prices. I think that
Yeah.
was like the first entrepreneurial thing I ever did, which is just like trying to sell my services on the internet in terms of like tutoring. So that was
Don't leave us
probably
in suspense. Did you sell
oh,
anything?
for sure.
Hey, talk us
Yeah,
through that.
I did. I think I learned I didn't like doing those sorts of businesses very
Yeah.
quickly. I think that was like probably like 2, 3 months of tutoring, and then I learned I'm a bad tutor. I have very little patience to tutor. It's just
Yeah.
not my forte. But it was like I think the thing that it taught me was if you want to go do something, there's like you in your head you imagine there's all these rules around, oh, I have to do step one to step two to step three to first get my first customer. The reality is you can go post on a subreddit and then have a customer in 2 hours.
Yeah.
If you like just wanted to go do a thing, right? Like for anyone who's like thinking about doing entrepreneurship right now, you could probably go post on some subreddits, on some Facebook groups to see if someone wants to talk to you, if someone's willing to just give you $20 to beta software that doesn't exist yet, but that you will build or you'll return their cash if it doesn't come up. And you can just start a business like now. It's just all about the agency to be willing to do so and not like holding yourself back because of made up rules in your head, effectively.
What were some of those rules that came to your mind? Obviously, you
Yep.
did the thing. You went and
Yep.
posted on this already. You got a couple of
Yep.
customers right out of the gates,
Yep.
but what was holding you back initially?
Yeah, so I always used to think, "Oh, you should have, like, your own website that, like,
Mhm.
tells your service. You should have some sort of company incorporated with it. You should have a
Yep.
brand. You should
Yep.
have all these, like, 30 things set up before you go and get a first customer," which is just not true. Like, the reality is you don't even need a website. Maybe don't even need you just need a Gmail address, honestly,
Yeah.
like, worst case. You don't even need, like, a Stripe portal to take their payment. Like, just worst case, have them Venmo you. Like,
Yep.
it just there's so many ways to solve those problems where if you wanted to and you really wanted to, you can start tomorrow. And I think a lot of people will set up, "Oh, I need to do my website," to create work that's work so that they don't have to do the real thing that's painful, which is go ask people for money and see if they'll be willing to give you money. Because it is a very unnatural thing to go do when you're,
Yeah.
like, doing that for the first time. If you've never done it before, it was just very unnatural to be like, "Yeah, give me this money." Like, it's
Yeah.
super unnatural to go do that. So, I don't know. That was my big take.
Love that. Love that. It sounds like it's shaped a lot of your approach to just get started get the thing into the hands of the people, talk to the people, talk to way more people than you thought you
Yep.
needed to talk to, and start selling some things. Love it. All right, last two questions,
Yep.
rapid fire here. What's one tool or resource you wish you had known about when you started out?
Yep. Probably what should I use like on a crazy basis? Right now, it's like all the ChatGPT stuff I use like
Of
crazy, but
course.
like when I started off, it wasn't like a thing. So
Yeah.
that would be, I think, a cop answer. I think the best one, honestly, is learning how to exploit Reddit to an extent.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I didn't realize the power of basically social content until like probably a year or two in, which is, you know, if you can get social posts out there either on LinkedIn, on Reddit, or somewhere else, and they do decently well, it's like a dividend that keeps paying like years down the road because people will find you, they'll see those comments. And one of the issues with those like those approaches is you need to start early for you to see the payment like
Yep.
years down the road. That was probably like number one lesson. And I think that's all encompassing. To anyone listening to this, go max out your LinkedIn follower like connection requests immediately if you're not doing that. There's like
Yep.
little things you can go do that will build up over the next year, and you don't want to be in a position in a year where you're just starting. So even if you don't know if you're going to do it, start posting now on LinkedIn, start maxing out connection requests and start commenting on people's comments. Like 30 minutes a day you can block out. It's very easy. It's just go do it.
So you're saying the best time to plant the tree was 100 years ago.
Always,
Best time to
always.
plant the tree is today, the second best time.
Yes.
All right. And what's the best book you'd recommend for a fellow founder? Doesn't have to be sales related by any means. What's your top pick?
I can't pronounce his last name. It's Pete Chris. It's he runs founding it's like founding sales.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was like a very good book. I read through it. It was, I think, just it encapsulates a lot of what you end up experiencing into just like, here are the tactics that you should just go follow.
When
Um,
in your journey did you read that? Was that like day one? Hey, we're going to start
no, that was
selling our business,
probably
or
a
like
couple
do you just
months in.
stumble
Someone
into it?
just
Yeah.
referred it to me just because I was like, I just didn't know what I was doing at all. And they're like, you should just read this book and then follow it like to a T. And I think it's like a pretty good guide on, hey, do this, and you're probably 90% of the way there in terms of reasonable process.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the show, man. We
Yep.
loved having you, loved hearing your story. That first dollar you made. If anything, the takeaway here is definitely start now, start fast. Don't put blockers your own way. Like just start having conversations, start connecting with people. I love that. And anybody who wants to connect with you, where do they find you? What's your favorite?
LinkedIn is the easiest. You can either look up Trellus or Ajinkya. There's not many people with my name, so it's probably going to
Nice.
be one of the first step. And then if you ever want to check us out, go to trellis.ai. And everything will be there on the website.
Awesome. I'm sure we will have some founders who will be checking you guys out. Thanks so
Love
much.
it. Awesome.
And there you have it, another first dollar in the books. Thanks for tuning in, and a huge thank you to our guests for sharing their story. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a fellow founder, leave us a review, or hit us up on LinkedIn. Want more startup insights and strategies? Head over to foundersales.com, where we're helping technical founders turn their innovations into thriving businesses. Until next time, keep hustling for that next dollar.